Okay. My interp My interpretation of this question falls into two areas, one being the retention of good quality cybersecurity people, and the second area being the recruitment of good quality cybersecurity people. On the retention side, what we're seeing is engineers becoming burnt out at an early stage because they're getting too much to deal with. There's multiple products, multiple solutions out there. And in order to retain these guys, we need to be able to look at how we help them develop, as well as being able to get on with the job itself. High in this understanding of what needs to be done is to understand how the cybersecurity analyst aligns himself with the business. So that's the first area. The second area I think we need to investigate is how, as an industry, we recruit people into the cyberspace. A lot of times, I know I do, and I guess you guys do as well, people come to you and say, how do I get into cybersecurity? And that's just like saying, how do I buy a car? Which car do you want? What color do you want? Do you want petrol? Do you want diesel? Do you want electric? The subject is so broad that you need to do your research to find out what areas of cybersecurity you want to be in. And then it's not all about certificates. Certificates are needed, but what we're looking for in the industry is people who have, if you like, a natural curiosity. So have you done things for yourself? Have you built your own little lab to see what happens when things go wrong? That's the sort of thing we're looking for. And as an industry, we need to start to look at redefining how we recruit so that it's not just certificate based. That's my take on the two areas. I'm going to leave it open to you guys to discuss it further, and I'll kick it off with you, Joe. Any thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And good day, everybody. Great to be with you, and really looking forward to this discussion. So from a retention standpoint, Mark, I'll kind of take them in the order that you mentioned them. You know, one thing is you mentioned burnout or fatigue, and you know, we know the average enterprise or the average customer, right, who's being managed by one of our partners gets somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30,000 alerts per month, right? That's just an average. Could be more, could be a little bit less than that. So that's about 1,000 a day that someone needs to look at or think about or adjudicate in some way. So that fatigue sets in rather quickly on a lot of the individuals who are occupying or manning these security operations roles. And then the other thing about retention is, and you touched on it in your question, these people are what we call blue teamers. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a blue teamer, okay? I was a blue teamer, but blue teamers have a desire, right? And their desire is to spend some portion of their time on the red team side. So they don't always want to be the defender, right? Sometimes they want to see things from the purview of the advancer or the attacker, if you will. And it does become an arduous role from a mental standpoint and from a metaphysical, a brain power standpoint. If all you're doing every day, all day, every shift is trying to pluck off advances that somebody else is shooting at you. So,
or Joe, how about out of those large volume of alerts, we're dealing with a lot of false positives too. We're seeing repetitive repetitive same scenarios every single day. And so, I like where you're going with this, with your thought process here. So,
no, you're absolutely right. As we know, generally speaking, a lot of alerts are the same as the alert that we saw an hour before, 5 minutes before, or the day before. So, so we get a lot of that repetitive nature in some of these operational roles. And then the last thing that I'll say about retention, and Randy, love to hear your thoughts on it, is the fact that we don't do a good job as an industry of giving people incremental roles. Senior SOC analyst with some degree of specialization associated with it, or Giving people a particular skill or training in XDR platforms and saying, hey, you're now the XDR expert. So when someone here has a question about XDR, they're going to come to you. So we're not doing that stepping stone or that laddering approach that I think is really important in some of these roles. I'll just say this. Years ago, I used to run a rather large help desk, a rather large service desk. And the biggest issue was telling service desk people you're going to do the same thing every day, 365 days a year. It just doesn't fly well. And the same kind of rules apply here. Randy, I don't know what you think about that.
Oh, well, when thinking about retention, I think that, leadership, especially in 2023, has a lot on their plate. We're looking at, a lot of new regulatory compliance controls that are being given to us, whether it's our state, federal government, it could be, the global, organizations. So, they need to, teach and train their people these new controls. They need to, seek, the budgets for these controls. Meanwhile, there's a lot of pressure because, there's a whole bunch of new job openings that are out there. And so, as a leader, we need to balance quite a bit, a changing industry, more complex, environments, more complex controls, budgets, but we really, when it comes to retention, I think, we need to look at our people, and we need to, they need to become a primary focus. And I think tool set in terms of retention, your cyber tool set or your stack selection has a lot. I think it has a key in retention. So let me give you an example, Joe. One of my prior roles as the chief technology officer of a managed service provider located in North America, and it was to manage a lot of different technology environments from different companies, and there's a fatigue in having to use a different tool set, to accomplish the same task, right? And it takes time, and there's pressure, to get to these alerts, or from the environments, really quickly, in a timely manner. And so I think that, in terms of retention, Joe and Mark, I think one thing that our leaders can do is look at our stack, look at our software stack, and ask questions like, geez, how efficient is it really? Is there a better way? Maybe we work with our teams, internally, and just ask them that question, once a week, at a tailgate meeting or something. But I think that, for me, Joe, I think the thing that comes to mind the most is my stack, my tool stack.
Yeah, no, I agree, Randy, and certainly, to kind of sum that up, people in technology like to work with the hottest leading edge. They like new tools, right? They like tools that are on the vanguard of technology. So if you're running, 6-7-year-old technology, that's probably going to be a turn off to a lot of employees. While we just have a couple of seconds, one last thing, Mark, that I just wanted to comment on, give Randy a chance to comment on, is the recruitment side, right? So 3.1 million jobs open and unfilled around the world. 57% of organizations who are seeking out cybersecurity professionals cannot find them. They cannot find qualified candidates to fill the roles. Huge problem. Our universities are trying to crank them out as quickly as they can. They're not seeing a lot of success. The problem is only getting worse on the recruitment side. Randy, I'm going to throw it over to you, and you may even have a suggestion or two.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. I do actually have a suggestion. You know, and it comes right back to tool stack. You know, your software selection. I think, you know, artificial intelligence is has closed the skills gap this year in 2023. That may even be another talking point for us in a future segment. But what I mean by that, Joe, is I think, you know, the last few years I saw, you know, in order to become a cyber analyst, you had to sort of put up with some of the, you know, kind of mundane, you know, job tasks that you outlined earlier. And that takes a special kind of a person to do that job role. And that really sort of excludes a lot of different, you know, people from getting into cybersecurity. In comes artificial intelligence. Okay. And so what it can do is it can explain things to a new group of people in a way that they can understand, while the business that's running that cyber, you know, tool stack that's capable of doing these things, you know, meets its requirements. And so I think what I just said, Joe, was maybe there's a, you know, leveraging artificial intelligence, I think, opens up the door for a whole bunch of new people who are interested, or who might be interested, or who never even thought they would be interested in cybersecurity. But when they start interacting with these really advanced tool sets, I think maybe they become hooked, and maybe that really helps, you know, close the skills gap. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, no, I think it does too, because it gives you, you know, one of the things that blue teamers routinely say is, I don't have really good tools to kind of tinker around with. Give me a test environment. Where's my test environment, right? You know, we all grew up in IT. We all want that. Well, unfortunately, that's been hard to do. But with AI, right, with Chat GPT and OpenAI and tools of that nature, that's no longer far-fetched, right? You can have an operating set of test tools to look at adversarial tactics and techniques in a matter literally of minutes, not days, weeks, months, or never, right? So yeah, I'm right there with you, Randy, and that's got to happen. Otherwise, people are going to gravitate to roles that are using those tools. So hopefully that makes sense. Mark,
Well, guys,
hopefully we address the retention recruitment question. Obviously, you can see it's a very complex set of questions that need to be addressed.
absolutely, and I'm sure that that some thought-provoking actions need to be taken, as we say, both on recruitment and on retention and on AI, etc. So this concludes our First Thought Leadership Roundtable. We hope you join us for our next one. Topic for our next one is going to be to expect additional compliance requirements. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.